Welcome to Rejected or Selected, a podcast where we talk about job search woes, hiring horrors, and everything fair and unfair in and around our work lives.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Rejected or Selected. Hey, Deany, how are things going?
Great, as always. Always good on a Saturday.
Oh, that's good. I do. For those of you watching the video, if you do watch the video, Deany's got a little fort, which was kind of handmade by her kids, which she's now using as her makeshift studio, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. And also, I cannot pull it down because I'll get in trouble. So, like it or not, you've got this beautiful background. Anyway,
That's fantastic. And if you're not listening, if you're not watching the video and you're listening out there in podcast world, that's all right as well. We're both very, very musically themed t-shirts today, I must.
we're in sync. We're in sync. Yeah, we've got the music t-shirts.
The
Me
music
and
t-shirt.
Simon. Simon's got a legend from the
Oh yeah,
60s,
got the
50s,
king, got Elvis
40s.
the man himself. Yeah. And a bit more
And I've got
contemporary there from
Soldier
from Dean.
Boys.
Soldier Boys.
Yeah,
Well done.
yeah. Your idols.
I have to admit, no, I'm a very, well, not closeted anymore because I'm outing myself, but I'm a very much a fan of the movie and the songs. And I was at karaoke last Saturday night, Deany, here in Perth, and it got pretty messy. And by 11 o'clock, someone had chosen to sing Golden, and it had just denigrated into this. It was no longer karaoke. It was like 100 people in the room all screaming the song at one time. So,
It was a
yeah,
chorus.
really, it's just amazing how big that song has become in such a short space of time as well around the world. Crazy stuff. Anyway,
yes.
we should probably get on with the show, right?
I got distracted again as always. Daisy's just sitting here waiting for us to like.
I know. We do have a guest, everybody. We promised it in the last show. We promised it, and you probably sat there thinking, yeah, right. But we have her here. So,
Yes.
yeah, look, before we do get started, I think I'd like to just, maybe warm up our audience a bit. So just a couple of things, Deany, when we talk about things such as, I guess designing workplaces would be the word, right? Around hiring processes for people who have disabilities, we always talk about, what does that look like? What's the function look like there? Does it work? Is it actually accessible? But nobody asks, does it feel good? Does it also, preserve a person's dignity as well? Does it treat them like they're actually a human being and it's not just a compliance ticking a box, right? So I'd like to introduce our guest today, Daisy Wong. Daisy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's great to spend, a Saturday afternoon in Melbourne with you guys. So thanks for having me.
Fantastic. We're
Saturday,
truly
it's 10 a.m. at Western time.
Yeah.
We're still
So it's
waking up.
morning over there.
Yes.
We are still waking up, yes. I'm only two
Into
espressos
brunch
in.
time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Deany, where are you? Are you in Perth as well?
No, well, I'm in AWSN time. No, AWSN. Oh my God, I've got AWSN in my head because Daisy's here. AWST, Perth time. I share Perth time, but I'm actually in Bali. Hence why the
Do
mini
you normally
rave.
work from Bali as well?
I do, yes, remote.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I'm
so
one of those
nice.
annoyingly lucky people, as most people say. To
That's great.
find. Yeah, no, Retrospect Labs. I'm gonna do a plug of my company. Not mine, obviously. I work there. They're remote first, and obviously it's a case by case, but they do trust us to do our jobs, and they give us the flexibility to be able to continue doing so. But to be fair, I am one of the exception. Everyone else is in Australia.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
Deany and Daisy,
Yes.
speaking of the faux pas of AWSN that you just
Yes.
basically, obviously it's a Freudian slip. It's on your
Segue.
mind. So
Yes.
AWSN for our listeners, AWSN stands for Australian Women in Security Network. It's a nationwide Australian non-for-profit which um, aims to get more women into cybersecurity and into
Mm,
leadership roles as well, and empower them to, basically, find their first role in cyber, move up the ladder in cybersecurity, and also tries to, I guess, dispel the myth that cyber is just for men, where it's not.
mm,
So it is a fantastic organization, which I'm also a part of, and I'm very proud to be a part of
mm,
that. But I guess, Daisy, segue into our first question for you. You went from an AWSN award winner in 2020 to now in 2026 a judge for their awards. What does that arc feel like to you?
It feels like full circle because, to get to the first award felt like such a long journey, had lots of challenges. And, at one point, I thought about leaving the industry before I found AWSN
mm,
because I'm like, I was constantly told I wasn't technical, there was no role for me. So, yeah, so then to go from that to finding my support network from, through AWSN, making my friends, meeting my mentors, to then, to then getting the award in 2020. And then, 6 years
mhm.
later, full circle, I'm now back and helping judge and, see the rising stars. I think it's kind of rewarding as well.
Yeah. It's really impressive what you've gone through. I mean, 6 years, it sounds like a long time, but during that time, you've also gone through so many changes and growth in your career. But even getting to that first point of, as you said, you nearly quit the industry, joining AWSN was a career saving move for you, I guess, because you found your network and
Mm,
you found your support, which is amazing. But what I'm interested in, right? Because everyone's path is different. Right.
of
And
course.
I know that you have like very inspiring stories. So the very beginning of how you got your first job, this is really interesting to people. How do you actually get your first job in cybersecurity? And then all the way till now, where you are head of security awareness at Medibank. That's
Yeah. No,
insane.
no, no,
6 years
100%.
is not a long time to reach that
I
too.
did it in longer than 6 years, probably 10. But no, I think we have to rewind back to uni. I didn't do IT even. So, before we talk about how you get into cyber, I didn't even do an IT degree. Cybersecurity courses didn't exist. I actually did marketing and, graduated with a business degree. I actually have 4 degrees. Yes, high achiever, but I also didn't want to work. So I did 2 bachelors and 2 masters in 4 years. I didn't fail anything. I just was a full-time professional student.
Mm,
After 6 years, 4 degrees under my belt, which I don't recommend unless you're really like studying like me, because I would say for your listeners, if they are studying or looking, I think I was a little bit overqualified on paper. And that is something I will remind people. On
yeah.
paper, I was too qualified because I had no experience to back it up. So you're this master
Mm,
holder. Well, so what have you done? Tutoring? Literally was my answer. And obviously, for your listeners who can't see or don't know, I'm a wheelchair user. I have a physical disability. Like, when I was younger, getting part time work was quite difficult as well. So
mm,
then that was kind of uni after uni. I was lucky, but I also worked really hard. I got into a graduate program at IBM. So that was my first IT job, foray into the industry. I was a project coordinator, did that for 2 years and 8 months. And I thought graduates were the cheapest. We were, and then we were the most dispensable, redundant after 2 years and 8 months. Like,
yeah.
so I graduate, did really well at uni, got a job before I graduated, really proud. And then 2 years, 8 months, bye, you're just not, not worth keeping, was
Yeah.
basically how I felt.
Ooh.
And then that's when I was very lucky I did fall into cyber. And how did I do that? I literally
Mm.
just sat on Seek, scrolling through roles. And then there was a role because I was a project coordinator before. There was this role called
Mm,
project scheduler. And I'm like,
mm.
sure, same, but different. I applied. Lo and behold, that was a role straight into the penetration testing team at NAB.
Mm,
I didn't know what a penetration
Whoa.
yeah.
test was. I didn't know what cybersecurity was, but they're like, "Can you, like, organize things and, herd cats?" And I'm like, "Sure, I could do that." So I did that. It's funny, I actually told this story to my, NAB colleagues on Wednesday when we had dinner. I said, "I'll never forget that interview." The hiring manager he was kind of asking me questions about my experience, scheduling things, project
Mm,
management. Then he kind of looked at me and said, "I'm really struggling to interview you." And I'm like, "What have I said? What have I done?" And he said, "It's like I'm hiring for a Formula One car driver. I know you can drive, but will you be the next Michael Schumacher?" And I'm like, "The next Michael who?" And I remember just saying to, I just remember saying to him, because it got to a point where there was nothing I could do. And this is what I want your listeners to take away as well, like to advocate, have a
mm,
voice, especially for women. And I wasn't rude, but what I said to the hiring manager was, "So and so, I've told you all my experience, all my education, and what I'm passionate about. I believe I can do this job if you give me this opportunity, but
mm.
that is all I can do." And I just left because, I'm not going to beg you for a role. I've tried my
Yeah.
best. I put my best foot forward. So
Mhm.
then I went down the road, shoving my mouth with a gelato Messina. I literally got like 2 scoops, and I was just like, "What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? What the hell?" So I was just like, I was so mad because I thought
Yeah,
it isn't the word I want to use, but it was a bit inappropriate. Like, as in, you either tell me where I lack or what you're looking for,
yes,
but to tell me,
yes.
I know you can drive, but are you going to be the next Formula One car driver? Just doesn't
Wow.
really
Yeah.
make sense to me.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question. Did you ever get back to that hiring manager, or did you work with them? And did you
Yeah,
find
I
out why they asked that like, why did they frame it in that way?
so amongst me scoffing down gelato because I was mad, the recruiter
Yeah.
called back and said that the hiring manager wanted to hire me, but they wanted to push my rate down by a little bit, which was fine. I was like, 2, 3
Okay.
years into my role.
Yeah.
So I called my mentor, ex-manager, and he's like, "Daisy, it's your next role. It's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
your next you're early in your career, $20 a day
Mm,
is nothing." So I did. So I did end up working with him, and I did ask
mhm.
him, and he said, "I just didn't know how." He was like, "I knew you had potential, but I didn't know what to do with you because you were so different." The team
Is
had been
that do
all
you
men
Oh,
before.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
When he said that, like initially in the beginning, did you have any assumption or feel like, oh, is this because of my disability? Or,
I think more
did that come
female. Yeah,
female?
I think all
Okay.
of it, all of it. So I felt like when I joined the team, I was like, "Okay, it makes sense." They were all cookie
Mm,
cutter, all men, all technical men. And
yes.
then I kinda come
Yes.
in with, I didn't have bright pink, but I did go purple.
Okay.
But as in, like, personality-wise, I was always quite
Yeah, yeah.
outgoing, extroverted,
Yeah.
and quite
I
loud.
think that would have helped too,
Yeah.
though. That would have helped because if you're quiet, in that
Yeah.
kind of environment, you need to be heard, right? Mm,
Yeah, so then that was that, and again, like I said, that was my first job in cyber, fell into it,
mm.
had to learn what a penetration test was, and then that's when I started translating penetration testing reports. I don't know if you've seen them. They're quite
Yes,
technical, or just like
absolutely.
CVSS scores and
Yes.
vulnerabilities and fix this,
Yes.
fix that,
You have to explain
and
everything. I had to write them
yeah.
one time, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I did the translating to the business because I was at NAB.
Mm.
And then I remember I was probably 3.5 years into this role, and I am very happy to admit, and it sounds very weird to say, and both of you will be like, "How?" I didn't know what a career was and what I wanted from my career at that point. Genuinely, I had
Not
a job.
not so how,
Mm.
not so how. I
No.
I can relate to that. I
Yeah,
can
Yeah,
like,
me
I
definitely
too.
relate
just
to that.
yeah, because people are like, "But how?" Like, I'm like, "What do you mean how?" They're like, you're so out there, you so love your career now." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Yeah,
yeah,
but I'm
yeah,
just,"
yeah, yeah.
like, it took a while.
Mm.
And I think what my wake-up call was, that second role at NAB was also made redundant. So I had
Yeah,
2
that's
roles
insane.
made redundant. Talk about rejected or selected. I definitely feel rejected, okay? Because I had 2 redundancies before the age of 30.
That's
Wow.
insane. Because my first redundancy, I experienced at 40, and that was such a that was a different experience. It was very,
Yeah.
very hard, and
Yes.
you going through it twice in a short space of time, it's like you're fast tracking your actual career, part life cycle, you know? So
Yeah.
you're already
I,
experienced by the time you're 30, you've gone through
yeah,
2,
I
2
think so.
redundancies.
Simon, you wanna say something?
Yeah, look, love the share, Daisy, because something you said earlier about your personality, and Deany, I think you ran with that about the fact that your personality, you're outgoing, you're a bit louder than other people, probably did you a favor in getting that role.
Yeah.
And isn't it a shame though that if you are a woman or identifying as a woman and disabled as well, that
Mm.
you have to have a certain personality in order. I'm not saying you have to, but in order to get yourself, make yourself competitive for a certain role, especially in the tech field. What would be your advice, I guess, for somebody that is a woman going for their first role in cyber or in the wider tech field and hasn't
Mm.
got an outgoing personality or isn't an extrovert like you are?
Yeah.
How
Of
do they how
course.
do they get themselves above all the other, I guess, applicants?
Yeah, I think that's a really good
And
question,
again,
and I say
sorry, and
this
I'm
a
not
lot.
saying that you have to, but when we get
No,
a
no, no,
hiring
no, no.
manager who is very old school and does favor hiring of men because they like to hire people like them.
Yes, of course. So I feel like, that goes to maybe personal branding. Now,
Mm,
I think, I say this a lot, like, when I decided to put into my career, I went to more networking events. I asked the questions you've just asked me, and the
mm.
advice I got was just be yourself and you need to be authentic.
Yes.
And really find what you're good at and what you enjoy. But when people ask me, "Oh, we see you all over LinkedIn, you do so much." Obviously, yes, I do, but you both have children. I do not. My child is a dog who lives like a king anyway, but I have a little bit more personal
Yeah,
time. But apart
yeah.
from that, I always say to build your personal brand, you don't just need to be loud. You don't have to dye your hair pink. I would be pink regardless of if I was in this industry, and that's really important. Do you know what I mean? It needs to be authentic. Like, you don't do it because
Yeah.
of the industry. But I also think there's other ways you can build your personal brand. Like, there's a lot of like writing blog posts, being active on LinkedIn behind a screen as well. I also know people who go to conferences who don't present, but they're solid attendees. And people still remember them.
Mm,
Like, yeah, so
yeah.
I just think you need to find your way to shine. And that's the thing, I'm really conscious that because I'm so outgoing, because I'm so extroverted and like talking, that people think the way to succeed in any career, tech or cyber or whatnot, is to be loud and extroverted. I think there is space for everyone. And I think it's just we need to be like we just need to nurture that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
100%.
what you said, finding your own way to shine is really useful. Like I think that would be valuable for our listeners because yeah, people think, oh, you have to make a lot of noise, you have to be seen, you have to, and then what happens is if you're not naturally like that, it will eat your energy and you will be miserable. Like it's
Yeah,
not
that's
the
right.
way to live, right?
That's right.
Mm.
100%.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that, Daisy, because I know there are a lot of I attend a lot of events, a lot of networking events here in Perth, particularly mostly around cybersecurity, and a lot to do with AWSN. So we have a lot of women in attendance, a lot of young women who are graduate students trying to find their first role or very new to cybersecurity, who do ask me a lot of the time ask me a lot of the time, like, how do I, I guess climb the ladder and proceed? I want to go for a promotion, or I'm looking for my first role, and I can tell straight away from that conversation they are a bit more. They do hold back a bit more. They may be a bit more introverted or not
Mm,
as loud. I guess is the word we want to use. And so a lot of the time, I don't necessarily talk about the personal branding, which I think is a great piece of advice. Thank you, Daisy. Our
mm,
listeners will really take that away, but I do talk a lot about visibility, you know, putting yourself out there and actually attending more of these events and asking questions. You don't necessarily have to be the conference speaker, like you said. I'm so glad you touched on that because this is what I was going to say. Be the one in the back of the room that puts your hand up and asks a really
Yeah,
good
yeah.
question.
Ask questions. Yeah,
100%, because I know
that's
that I've
right.
spoken at a few events myself, and the people I always remember the audience, the ones that are putting the hand up and have the
Yeah,
really good
100%.
questions.
Yeah. Or you could also be the one who does really good conference recaps. Do you know what I mean?
Ah,
Mm.
Like, you don't need to be you can
Yeah.
create your niche. You can be
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the one, like, who is really good at doing conference reels and, highlight reels. Or if you're not
yeah,
confident in presenting, if you're able to grab the speakers afterwards and just say, "Do you mind if I asked you a question about your, presentation, about how you think
yeah.
about this conference?" I think there's a lot of ways now that you can be visible, but I also
Mm.
think it takes practice. So, like, I
Yeah.
was always it was always a chatterbox, even as a kid, but I would say it's taken me probably a long time to get this comfortable in front of a camera or an audience.
Mm.
So, like,
Mm.
just because, I look really comfortable now doesn't mean I was. And my first kind of foray into this was probably an AWSN. It was during COVID. It was an AWSN like webinar that I was moderating. And I remember my friends like, "You sound a bit nervous." I was like, "Was I?" Because it was my first one. And don't get me wrong, and don't forget, like, I was lucky because when I wanted to, get more visible and try to do this public speaking thing, I was lucky I chose to do it behind a screen. So I didn't have to
Mm.
have the physical disability so up and, like, front and center because
Mm.
I probably wasn't ready. And it's taken me
Mm.
time. So I think it's important that we remind the listeners that, you might have potential, you might actually enjoy talking, you just haven't had the opportunity. And
Mhm.
it's okay, you can change your mind. Like, I always I don't understand why we all do something and we think we have to be experts in it. I'm like, you can
Yeah.
change your mind. Like, you can do a panel and decide you never wanna speak again, and that's okay as well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You can't be an expert your first go. I mean, some people can maybe, but for
Mm,
normal human beings like us, there's a process, right? You
normal,
start, you make mistakes. Yeah, like regular
regular.
non-genius talented, you know, born with some kind of magical power that can perform right
exactly.
away. I don't know.
I think
There's
you
always a
touched on it.
process.
I think you touched on that in our last episode, Deany, about your husband who knew from the age of 15 what he wanted to do, and he's
Yeah,
awesome
let's
at
not even talk about
it.
him. He's just sorry, Daisy. My husband, he's a French chef. He's been trained in culinary since he was 15 years old. He knew what he wanted to do and he was so good at it that like from the beginning. And he's still, he's still in that industry. And I always tell him like you are so lucky because a lot of us, we don't know
Yeah.
what we can
Yeah.
do. It's a long process to find
It
what you're
is.
comfortable in. Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. I've always been envious of people who know what they wanna do. And they
100%.
just work towards it, while I feel like I was like, "I think I'm good at this," but that's the thing, like, I never thought, again, I was always good at speaking, but I never knew
Mm,
that could be part of the job.
right,
'Cause, I
yeah.
never wanted to be a celebrity. I wasn't gonna be a singer or an actor. That's not really my
Yeah, yeah,
my
yeah.
jam, right? But it's
Yeah,
kinda nice how you can then, just merge, what you're interested in and what you're good at together.
yeah. Going back to you were at NAB, that was your first, intense cybersecurity role in the pen
Mm.
testing, we would say,
Team?
what's a good word to say? Yeah. And doing the scheduling and then reports. What
Yes.
happened next?
That role was made redundant, like I said, not naming
Yes.
names, but I definitely had challenges there where a hiring manager kept telling me that I wasn't technical. I remember before the redundancy happened, I was there for, 3 years and I was starting to
Mm-hmm.
think about the next step. And I remember
Yeah.
asking my people leader, my manager, I said, "Oh, can you give me some advice? What should I do next?" And they were not interested. "You're not very technical, Daisy. Maybe project management or maybe awareness."
Ah,
And I was like, what?
It's
And they, again, I'm trying to be very hard not to, keep them anonymous, but they
yeah.
would always ask me,
Hey,
how's your dog? And I'm like, my dog's fine, thank you. Like, as in, every time when I asked a serious question, instead of just like, I'm sorry, Daisy, I don't divert, but how's your dog? How's
How's
Cupcake?
your
My dog's name is
dog?
Cupcake. Yeah,
Wow.
always. And I'm like, what? And I have said this before. I will say it again. We all know about ASA CyberCon, Cyber Conference, largest Australian cybersecurity conference. The whole
yes.
team was given a ticket. I was not. And the answer
Oh,
was, you're not
Why?
going.
no.
That's it.
What a kick.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I would have really liked to go. And he's like, yeah, but it's a very technical conference,
Yeah.
Debbie, very
It is
technical.
not
Hey, look after
even.
your
Oh
dog.
my God.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm like, yeah, and then
That's
now,
annoying.
obviously, I have presented there quite a few times. I
Mhm.
also got an
Mm.
award from ASA last year, but like, it's not that but I just think, yeah. Anyway, so that was that
Do you,
experience.
do you ever
And
feel
then
tempted to
due
like
to that,
just tag them in?
no, no,
Yeah,
no.
Like,
I,
yeah.
I think
announce.
people,
Here's a
I
picture of
think,
my
I
award.
think
I'm
people
tagging
who
my
know
entire
me,
team.
I think people who know who I'm talking about.
Okay.
And
Brilliant.
I mean, I'll put it on the record on your podcast, right? I'll put it on the
Yeah.
record on your
Ooh,
podcast.
do it.
If they haven't listened to it, if they have the decency and the courage to just apologize, I'm happy to like I'm happy to let it go. I don't hold grudges because I've
Nice.
got better things to do. But I
Okay.
have seen since them, I have since seen them, they have never apologized and continue to ask about my dog and also asked if he was still alive. This only happened last
Uh,
year.
Speechless.
Yeah.
maybe, okay, giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they
Yeah,
feel
of
like
course.
unsure how to approach that whole thing. And then
Yes.
the way to make things like we're good is how's your dog? You know, that
Yeah, yeah. Look,
I don't
okay,
know.
Ooh,
I'm very I'm
I don't
very
know.
balanced as a person. To
Yeah,
rewind, I think
you'd have to
I'm never
be.
gonna make an excuse for their behavior or how they acted.
Mm,
However,
No
I
way.
think
yeah.
they really struggled with a female, loud, pink-haired person in their team. And it's what
Mm.
and he also underestimated me. Instead of giving it
Yes,
me an opportunity, he just
absolutely.
went,
Mm,
she's good for laughs, relationship building, all that, what we call soft skills, which I don't really like that
Oh,
mm.
term anyway. Skills are skills. Why does that have to be
yes.
soft or hard? Um, but like, I think
Sort of egg.
can you cut that, Simon? They
They?
just decided they
They.
um
They.
they underestimated, but that's okay because they did me a favor, and one of my mentors back then said your redundancies are going to be a blessing. You're going to look back and thank
Yes.
them. And obviously when you're younger you're like, screw this, absolutely not, my life is ending.
Mm,
But I
Yeah.
will admit that, and I've said this on other, podcasts and conferences, when that role at NAB ended, 2 redundancies in a row, it really hit my confidence because I was like, I've
yeah.
done everything right. I did uni so well. I got a job before I graduated. I don't
Mm,
do anything bad. I don't
mm,
make
mm, mm,
bad
mm.
decisions. Like, thought I was just following the straight and narrow. So it's like, what is going on? And
Yeah.
obviously, constantly it being told that I wasn't technical enough. I genuinely felt that there wasn't space for me in the cyber industry.
Mm,
Genuinely.
okay.
And I was very lucky that I found AWSN, like I said, because that's when I met
Mm,
Jackie, Lucille, the founder. I met Melissa Mizurako, my mentor, who's still a really good friend. And they
Yeah.
really helped me see that there are other aspects of cyber that it wasn't as technical. Now, I know
mm.
Jackie's also not a fan of people saying you don't need to be technical in cyber. I don't agree with that statement. I
Yes.
think,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I think it's important you appreciate technical concepts, cybersecurity
Mm.
as a whole. I
Mhm.
just don't
100%.
think you need to be on the tools. That's all. I agree with that. You don't need to be on the tools to be successful, but you need to appreciate
Mm.
and understand cybersecurity. I think that's also fair. It kind of takes two things to tango,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I mean, if you say you don't need any understanding of how technical controls work, how they can help companies protect from attacks to their tech stack, their surface, and say that, oh, I can just come in and not even worry about that side is just
Correct.
that that's dreaming, because it is a
Yeah.
cybersecurity industry. You need to have some kind of understanding how that relates.
Correct.
But I think people like us, where we come, well, actually, I do come from a technical background, but now my role is not specifically technical. Um, our strength is that we can tie that to the business objectives. We can actually translate what you were doing with the reports, Daisy, like translating that
Correct.
to why the business should care. But to be able to do that, you also need to know, what would happen if those technical controls weren't there, or if those attacks actually occurred.
Mm.
So what the impact to business is. So yeah, you definitely need to have familiarity, an understanding, like underlying understanding of how things happen and why we need to do things.
I think at this
100%.
point, and I
I
don't want to
agree.
talk too much about cybersecurity in this episode, but I do think that we're at a point
Can't help
now
it.
in we've got a fantastic expert in cyber here. But I think we're at a point now where with this industry, with cybersecurity, particularly in Australia, we have to accept that it is an extremely broad industry with lots of different skills. And
Yeah.
yes, we need lots of people who do have skills on the tools and have the experience, especially
Yeah,
the
yeah,
experience.
absolutely.
What
Mm,
we're also not considering is that there are a lot of other roles that help
Mm.
support those people as
mm,
well,
Correct.
and also, a lot of roles where, like you just saying, people who need to actually speak business risk as well is really important,
yeah,
and not necessarily a lot of people can't necessarily do that. It is a skill unto itself, so we need a lot of those. Well, and I hate saying it, I don't wanna use this term soft skills, they are essential skills. Learning how
Correct.
to use a
essentially.
scene tool is an essential skill. Learning how to communicate
Mm.
Mm,
communicate to a board is an essential skill. They're all skills that we need. Well,
yeah, exactly. You you know what was not helpful, and it happens all the time, is the labeling. You put your team members, employees in a box, and you're limiting their ability to, where they have the willingness to actually gain those technical skills and contribute more
Yeah.
to your company. It's insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's
I
the
see
thing.
it
I
all the
feel like
time.
if I had been given the opportunity, my career path might have been different. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? But I wasn't given that opportunity. And yeah, so but anyway, that was NAB. After NAB, joined the Victorian government. I was a cybersecurity project manager. So I went back and did my Prince 2, proper project manager certified. And I implemented vulnerability management. I organized a penetration test for one of the departments in Victorian government. And then one of my projects
Mm,
was a security culture and awareness program. And that's when I met, my
oh,
mentor and friend, Melissa Mizuraka, who was part of AWSN, who introduced me to Jackie. And she was like, I think you've got a knack for this. And I'm like, a knack for what? She's like, you communicate really well. You connect with people really well. And you did marketing. You can use all these skills in something called security
mm,
culture and awareness. That's where you educate employees, could be customers,
mm,
could be, whoever. So yeah, that's kind of my next role. And
mm,
then I eventually moved over to be the cyber culture and I think engagement lead for the whole of VicGov. So that was kind of
nice.
mm,
my first
Wow.
big, yeah, that was kind of my first big kind of leadership role. I had like a small team, but I did go coordinator. You know what I mean? I feel like at one point all my friends were improving and all the graduates at IBM, everyone's like, I'm now a manager. I'm now on six figures. I'm now doing this. And I'm like, I've just had two redundancies. Okay. Am I ever gonna make it? So I think it's important that you back yourself because I think it's human
mm.
nature to compare, right? None of my friends ever
Yes,
compared with me or make me feel bad, but they're just sharing their success, which is absolutely
mm,
fine. But I think for me, I was just like, I don't think I'll ever make it, but I did. I did. So I think I
you
went
did.
from, NAB to the leader role. My first kind of leadership role was probably 2.5 years, 2 years. But at the same time, within those 2 years, I was like, "Okay, what is this networking business? How do I do it? What do I do? Who do I
Yeah.
network?" And, you will be rejected. I'm sure we've all been
Mm.
rejected before when we
Oh,
try to speak to
absolutely.
someone. Yeah. And now kind of people coming to me, I try not to reject anyone, but I'm a firm believer. You know how when people always say, like, if you get a mentor, help those who are rising. I completely agree, but they also need to help themselves. Like I've had situations
Yes.
when people ask me for help and I tell them about all these networking events that they can attend, how
Mm.
to get a, free ticket to ASA, you volunteer. I give them all this and then they just say, "Can you get me a job?" And I'm like, "No, I cannot, unfortunately." Yeah.
How audacious.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, don't ask, don't get.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
True.
it's got to be a two-way street, right? Yeah, you got to put in the
100%.
effort
And yeah,
also.
you need to ask and also put in the effort and
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah. Daisy,
Yeah.
getting back to we were talking about earlier, and we're not going to beat around the bush. You said it earlier. You use a wheelchair.
Mhm.
I really want to ask you personally, how do you find the process when going for a job, but not just even going for a job when you enter a new workplace? Is there anything that you find that is dehumanizing for you?
Oh, 100%. I do think we're getting better. So let me preface that we are getting better as an industry, not just tech, but just overall corporate, which is obviously what I've been working in. But there's a lot of a lot of times when you apply for a job, like you don't know if you're going to get interviewed. So you're not going to do that much
Mm,
research. But as soon as the moment you get the interview, I always need to ask, is it wheelchair accessible? Where's
mm,
parking? I once did an interview many, many moons ago. I spent $80 on parking because that was the closest
Whoa.
accessible for myself. This was like 10 years ago. So $80 was
mm.
even more money back then as
That's
a younger,
insane.
yeah. And I remember going and I had told the recruiter that I was in a wheelchair, disabled.
Mm,
And then the hiring manager still went ahead and asked me questions about my skills, my experience, but she was more concerned about whether or not I could make a cup of tea and go back to my desk.
mm.
And I just felt really discriminated, like, as in, why are you not focusing on my experience, my
Yeah, yeah,
interests,
yeah,
my
yeah.
expertise? Yeah, she was really like, it was like she was fixated on my disability. Like, she's never seen a rare exotic animal and that's how I'm being serious. Like, I,
No,
I
I
feel
get
like
it. Yeah.
sometimes I feel like sometimes hiring managers or just managers who have never managed or had a person in the team in a
Mm,
wheelchair, they don't know how to react. And that's okay. But I think the rule of thumb for me is just ask. Do you know what I
mm.
mean? Like, don't make
Mm,
assumptions of what I can or can't do, but also treat everyone equally. So I
yes.
remember asking that particular hiring manager, what is your work from home policy? And keep in mind, this is pre COVID, so it wasn't as
Yeah.
common. However,
Yeah.
I started my career at IBM and NAB. They both supported work from home. So I always
Mm,
did like 2 or 3 days. And it's not because I'm lazy or because I'm entitled, because I'm in a wheelchair. It's because I drive with my hands. So, the commute from my house. And again, I need to
mm.
drive because that's the most accessible way. Foot transport for me takes 45 minutes. My hands, my
Yeah.
back, things get tired.
Oh,
Yeah.
But yeah, and I remember that hiring manager saying, "I work from home once a week, but I don't expect you to unless it's a special occasion." And I'm just like, okay, no worries. There was no
Tell
like,
me about your culture.
what
yeah,
about telling me about your culture?
yeah. But to add to that, it's really systemic that we think like, working from home is a bad thing or disability is a bad thing. Because I
Mm,
remember, after the redundancy at NAB, they gave us a professional mentor, like a coach, career coach.
mm.
And I had a couple of sessions with her. And in between this, I remember going for the interview in government at one of the Victorian government departments. And she said, "How did the interview go?" I said, "Yes, good." I answered everything. she's like, "Do you ask any questions?" I said, "Yeah, I asked about the flexibility and, adjustments made for me."
Mm.
And she's like, "Oh, I wouldn't have asked that." Oh, no, no, that might have jeopardized your chance.
Uh, it's a
And this
different
is why I
time.
want to different this wasn't that long ago. This was only like 7 years ago, okay?
Oh, okay.
But
Not in the
I
70s or
yeah,
80s.
no, 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 this was 7 years ago. And I think it
Yeah.
still happens now. Yeah, but it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
then I feel like some hiring managers do have hesitations in hiring someone with a disability because this
Mm.
is it's like this perpetual cycle of disabled people need more, they can't perform as well, so to save all the hassle, let's just not hire them.
It's the assumptions, right? That's the
That is the
assumptions that
assumptions.
you
Yeah,
come
which is
across.
really sad
Yeah.
because it's not true, and I genuinely think, people with a disability are very resourceful.
Mm. So what would be your advice to potential hiring managers, potential employers, recruiters? You know, what would be your advice in terms of hiring someone with a disability?
The advice would be to obviously give everyone the same, equal opportunity, but also ask. You'll be surprised because we are very, very resourceful. And also,
Mm.
yes, I'm in a wheelchair, but I'm sure like you both would agree. You see me at more conferences than most people, just because I'm in a wheelchair doesn't mean you can't do it. You just don't see
Mm.
the behind the scene. So I'm flying to Canberra next week and to Sydney within the same week, one for a bit of a holiday, but one's like an opportunity to speak at a conference. So I'm
Mm.
doing Canberra and Sydney in a week, and I'll be there. But the behind the scenes is crazy. He's taking me to the airport, he's getting me onto the plane, he's picking me up, you know, there is a lot, but I think when there's a will, there's a way. So don't make
Mm.
assumptions just because it's harder. So whoever it is, this conference speaker might need to give me an extra 2 hours. They might need to pay an
Yeah.
extra $150 to get me a wheelchair taxi, but it is possible. So don't discount that person just because they have a disability. And I just wanted to highlight it's not just physical disabilities. I don't want to be the voice of every kind of
Yes.
disability out there
Okay.
because I can't be. Okay, there's so
Yes.
many
Yeah.
types
Yeah.
of invisible disabilities, challenges, illnesses, and I think they
Mm.
also need to be given the same opportunity as well. I
Mhm.
was talking to my friend who has chronic pain due to spinal injuries and things. She looks
Yep.
absolutely able-bodied, if that is
Mm.
the term you'll allow me to use. So if you
Yes.
look at her, you would not think, but on a day-to-day basis, she's in a much worse, no, I wouldn't say condition, but it
Mm.
impacts her day to day a lot more than my disability impacts me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Completely
I
get
think,
Yeah.
so I just wanted to highlight that as well.
Yeah. That's good
Thanks,
to
Daisy.
raise because not many people actually realize,
Mm,
invisible disability is a thing. The first time I actually had it presented to me formally was when I was working at Jacobs and they had awareness week of disability and invisible disability, and it generated a lot of discussion. And yeah, it was really useful for the employees to actually understand that, hey, you might have a
100%.
colleague that is going through something. So
Mm.
um, yeah, it's good
And
that you
like,
raised that as well.
we're also female. A lot of my girlfriends have gone through IVF, and then it's like a
Yes,
spectrum, right? Like, there's just period pains, just the cycle in general, and then it's,
yes. The
IVF and
hormones.
yeah, the
Yeah.
hormones.
The
And yeah, I wouldn't wish IVF upon anyone. It is quite
It's a
brutal
grueling
yeah,
process. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And then on the other end, it's like perimenopause and menopause. So
Mm.
I feel like, but these are
Hello.
all things that are,
So
I'm
just
just
announcing
saying,
to the
not
world.
you. Just
No, but
announce it.
I
But no,
am.
I
I'm
just,
happy to
yeah,
announce. I'm
no,
excited
I
to
just
announce
think,
I'm in perimenopause. Should do a
no, but
LinkedIn
I just
post.
think, you should do a LinkedIn. No, but I just think like, I'm just very conscious of how visible my disability is, and that's why it
Mm,
might be easier sometimes, right?
I see where you're coming from. Yes.
So that's why I say I just want to highlight that I have one disability and it
Mm,
happens to be visible, but there are
mm.
a lot that are hidden or invisible and that we shouldn't ignore.
Thanks, Daisy. That's
Yeah,
a really
exactly.
good point to raise. Yeah, it's something not a lot of people do think about consciously. One final question for you, Daisy, and we'll see where this takes us because it could be very open ended. Is Australian corporate culture getting better at, I guess, recognizing people with disabilities, but also making things more accessible? Or is it just something they like talking about?
It's a great question. I think overall, Australian corporate organisations are getting better when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. There is a lot of talk. I always joke with my friends. I feel like every month there's a flavour. And obviously, there's so many initiatives that we need to support, right? But to give you an
Mm.
example, my employer, Medibank, has done well in the sense that each floor there's accessible bathrooms. And in female bathrooms, they provide free tampons and sanitary pads. They also provide it in accessible bathrooms, which is amazing. And
Oh,
That's
because I
amazing.
can't, yeah, because like first of all, they provide it for those who identify as female. But not only that, it's in the unisex accessible bathrooms, which is not found
Mm.
usually because it's
wow.
unisex.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. So I do think, and I also think culturally we're getting better at I don't feel I was really funny when I was in the pen testing team. I would, have my period, not feeling great. And they would keep asking me questions. And I remember we had to come up with a code word. And I was like, I'm delicate. They're like, okay, Daisy's delicate. We'll handle it later. Because they felt really
That's
uncomfortable
so
because I would be like, I've got
cool.
my period. They're like, oh my God. And I'm like,
Oh,
Jesus Christ.
man.
So we came up with the word delicate. I'm like, I'm delicate. They're like, okay, we get you. But obviously that was a mutually agreed term between me and my friends.
Yeah,
Okay. Don't go
yeah,
around
yeah.
telling everyone it's delicate. So I do think I think it's two-pronged. I think it's good that we're talking about it, right? Because I
Mm,
can now tell people that I've got my period pain or whatever, and people
yeah,
generally don't bat an eyelid. Okay, that's
yeah.
good. But are we getting better? Yes, but very slowly. And I think there is still more
Mm,
we can do. Like I am still having to remind some male colleagues, hey, can we not do meetings 8:30 to 9:30 because a lot of the female colleagues or a lot of those who have kids, because men also drop kids off, that a
yes.
lot of our colleagues have
Yes.
meetings, like so have to have
Mm,
drop-offs. So why do we have to
mm.
do the meeting at 8:30 to 9:30? And they were like, yeah, but
Yes.
9 o'clock stand up. And I literally challenged them like, do you not have something else you can do until 9:30? And they're like, of course I do. I'm like, great, move the stand up to 9:30.
Like,
But yeah, yeah.
why have meetings before 9 o'clock? That's really rude, I feel. Nowadays.
Yeah.
That's
No, but I
that's gotta
just
be a
yeah,
international war
yeah,
crime right there because
Right. What time do you expect your staff to start working? Like 7
yeah,
so they can be prepared by 8 and then have their meeting. It's insane. Like you need
yeah.
time
yeah,
to actually, if you have a desk, get to your desk, collect your thoughts, go
yeah,
through everything, then have your meeting. Like before
yeah,
9 o'clock, I mean, come on.
yeah.
Exactly, and I do
We're
still
So
drop
so,
off and it's
it's
just it's ridiculous.
2026 for God's sake.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So yeah, so I think we are getting better, but there's still lots to do.
Mm,
And obviously we will have to do it collectively, like you guys with this amazing podcast and just sharing
thank
the
you.
word and spreading it far and wide. So I think,
absolutely.
yeah, they're
Okay.
getting better, but we need to do more.
Okay. I know you said it's the last question, Simon, but I really want to ask this question.
All good. I knew
I
this was
always
coming.
put the last question and
I
sneak
knew it
one
was
in.
coming. All good.
Okay, sneak one in.
Sneak one in. Most importantly, for someone who has a disability and is currently job searching, what is your advice to them?
I would say just put yourself out there. You're unfortunately going to be rejected first before that you'll probably get selected. And it's all the things
Mm,
we spoke about today. It's the misconception. It's the hiring manager's unconscious bias. Because I think all
mm,
my friends who are now who have spent time with me are like, I actually understand a lot more about how what true accessibility means. So I think
mm,
I would say any advice is just keep going, don't give up. Yeah, and just unfortunately, you will have to deal with rejection, but that doesn't mean you're redundant. So I always say this when the roles when they were first when those roles were first redundant, I used to go introducing myself as hi, I'm Daisy. I got made redundant from NAB, or I'm redundant from NAB, and there's someone literally because I tied my identity so closely with my job. Do you know what I mean?
yes.
It was like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what am I without a job? What am I
Mm.
without? And there's a bit of Chinese culture that plays into that, shame and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
And I remember someone pulling me up and they said, "Hold up." I'm like, "What?" They're like, You're not redundant. Your role was made
The
redundant.
role.
Anyone could be in
Yeah.
the
Language
role."
is
And I
important.
think
Yeah,
so that's the other thing
yeah.
I would say. I would tell anyone with whether you have a disability or not, looking
Mm,
for work, to be kind to yourself.
mm,
And sometimes and I do believe everything happens for a reason. Like,
Mhm.
there
mm.
have been roles that I've applied for where I'm like, I should get it, perfect fit, ready to go, and it doesn't work
Same.
out. And obviously, disappointed, right?
Yeah.
But
Happened
I
to all of
think,
us.
yeah, it's
Yep.
happened to all of us. It will
Yeah.
continue to happen to all of us, unfortunately. But I do think eventually the right role will come.
Practical tips, Daisy. So
Mm.
I have a disability. I want to apply to a job. Should I state my disability straight away, or
Hmm. Yeah.
what's
So
the best approach according to you?
yeah, I think HR laws say that you can't tell or they can ask. I think there is like an optional, most applications have an
Okay.
optional box. Do you identify? Always say
Mm,
yes. Now, again, it
mm,
can be challenging if yours isn't a disability, but it's a condition. Remember, there's different kinds. But my practical advice is to be upfront and honest and ask for what you need immediately, because there is no point in trying to fake it till you make it. Like, let's just say I don't
yeah.
tell my employer that I need parking that's accessible and close by, and I just try and wing it and find street
Yeah.
parking. True story. I did that once in an older job where they didn't provide parking, but I really needed the job. I wanted the opportunity, so I said, "I'll make it happen." Every 3 hours, I was moving my car.
Oh, that's insane.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
think just be upfront,
Yeah.
and also, and I think it's harder for those just starting out to say no because
Mm,
you want to say yes to
mm,
everything. I think
mm.
it's important that you really consider what
Yeah.
is the right decision for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, that
Yeah.
resonates. I've got a very good, close friend. She's looking for her first job in security. She's completely deaf. She has got a cochlear implant
Oh,
that she had since she was
okay.
born, but, it is, impediment, and she keeps it off her CV, and I have told her a few times, you might wanna just suggest it sometimes because, again, you don't wanna be in a role or get a role where you are going to have to then say and explain yourself, and make things harder for
Mm,
yourself. So, yeah, it's a tricky area though.
mm,
That's the thing, right? Because how do you put it on your CV that
Yeah.
that it's not a deterrence?
Mm.
Because you don't want to have it in, like, do you hide it in a sentence, or do you,
yeah.
it is hard though. But I think,
Mm,
yeah, if there's no opportunity to tell, like, to identify someone with a disability, I often
mm,
just tell the recruiter when they call.
Yeah.
I'm not
yeah.
sure if you know, but I just wanted to let you know and highlight that I have a physical disability. I'm a wheelchair
Mm,
user, and then we just go from there.
yeah. And it's good. Like if a prospective employer kind of just says no straight away, I mean, you dodged a bullet. I love
100%.
using this.
No, you dodged a
Dodged a
big
bullet.
bullet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly right.